All right, here we go. We're going to give a call to Aaron. And I talked with him a little bit earlier. Super nice. You guys are going to love him. Love him. He's got this awesome picture, too, with, like, this beautiful Argyle sweater. I'm a sucker for Argyle.
Hello.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I've been watching the stream. Some good questions. Some good dino gaming out there, huh?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it totally is. It's like I said. It's not. I don't see how people could call it dumb fun when, there is a strategy to it. You can go in and, go balls to the wall type thing, but you can also work the strategy and try to figure stuff out and figure out who your dinos are and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. You can definitely be good at this game, and there's some classes like the Terra in particular and the Scientist that, are skill classes.
Yeah, I yesterday when we were playing, the first time I played as the Scientist, I sniped Peace Frog out of the sky.
It's satisfying.
From like halfway across the board. It was great.
I love the Terra. It's hard, right? It's going to be a little bit easier with the patch to pick people up and drop them, but it's like the most satisfying thing for me personally.
It is pretty cool. It is real cool. So let me see here. Let me just get this restarted. There we go. Alrighty. So let's get into it. What is your role on the team?
So I am the studio director. My name's Aaron. Studio director and producer. Kind of run the company, but those words like director, producer, they could basically mean just about anything. I'm not a technical guy. I'm more of a marketing, business, sort of person. And occasionally, like I will have a strategy or an idea for a mechanic or, somebody to solve something. One of the things I'm working on, for the game is maybe redoing all the lines of dialogue. So I do a little bit of everything.
Nice. Now, what age did you start playing games at?
It's always hard to remember that, but I'm guessing like 5 to, probably 5 or 6. I'm about 33 now.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that the first game I remember playing was probably Spy Hunter on an arcade machine.
Nice one. That's an old school game.
Yeah, like my dad used to work for a music studio that did like the recording for the Red Hot Chili Peppers and the Lemonheads, and they had an arcade machine. So like earliest memories are hanging out in a music studio playing Spy Hunter.
That's awesome. How did you get started with developing games or into the industry?
So I kind of have a weird background with games. I didn't, a lot of people, go to school for it, or they always wanted to be in games all their life. That wasn't really me. I was in an MBA program, and I just started to work on all sorts of projects. Like I helped the city of Champaign, Illinois get recycling, where they never had that, through like a crazy like event that involved the Greek system competing to gather stuff. One of the projects was a middleware company that was making a 3D engine, and this is back in like 2007, and that led to breaking off with a few people and starting a game company. But yeah, I got into games because I just got known as someone that knew how to figure out like plans and strategies and stuff.
Gotcha. Now, if you weren't a game developer, you would be what?
So like there's a lot of stuff I do now that is like a one-off from games. I work with a lot of event groups and conventions. I could do that, or I'd love to get into publishing, but if it was like something completely separate from games, it's going to be weird, but probably either like maybe like a political lobbyist or a reality producer for a producer for a reality TV show. I don't even like reality TV. I just like the idea of like curating like fake experience, like things that look real but aren't, which is kind of what games are.
That's a good way of putting it. That's a real good way of curating, quote unquote.
Exactly. Like I watch reality TV occasionally, and I'm just like, how did they get those people to say exactly what they wanted to like have the show be what it is,
Some of the stuff you can't make up.
If anybody could, it's the producers of the shows.
Yeah, that's true. So why do you make games? Is it a personal passion? Is it something, is it like a art form to you, like an expression of a certain interest of yours? You know, why do you do it particularly?
So, like, couple ways maybe answer that. So, I don't think it's like particularly games as opposed to other things that I've worked on, and I'm kind of drawn to like lots of different stuff. But I
Mm-hmm.
always love ambitious projects that call for like a combination of like a balance of like elegant solutions, like good strategies, and then on the fly hacks. Just being able to work on the fly. So that's part of why I
Mm,
like event planning. But like making a game is a lot like playing a game that where strategy is involved, right?
right, absolutely.
But like as a medium, I love games in that they tap everything, right? They bring together mixed media, they add incentives, into playing a game so you can drive behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And, all of that stuff, can be applied to just about everything in the world. And I think right now games kind of sit in the middle of everything, right?
Yeah, they do. I mean, I've seen some games take it to extremes, but they're not always well received, and it depends on the extreme that they go to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but then when it's pulled off, like Elder Scrolls, just I mean, how much can
Mm.
you do in a game like that? But I
Yeah.
just I just mean that like, there's really no theme for which you can't make a game for.
Mm.
And I'd go as far as to say that, you pull a theme out of your hat, like an idea, law, medicine, I don't know, fishing. You'll find a game that's being developed right now about that, like right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. It's amazing what's out there too. It's like the most off the wall idea, and there's a game for it. There's at least one game for it.
Yep. I think that if as long as like you can bring together a couple things and maybe like in some sort of unique way, you don't
Hmm.
need to like make everything. Some people that are getting into games don't want to copy anything, and that's like the wrong strategy. You want to copy
Mm.
things like 90% of the way and then add something that's really cool.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say copy, like borrow. You know what I mean?
That,
Influence.
or it's not a bad thing to be inspired by another game. Like a way another game is set up, maybe take a little here and there from it and then add your own twist to it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's learning. You know what I mean? To try to reinvent the wheel, and like when it comes to a technical level, to try to code something that might be in like an
Mm.
engine out of the box, that's just wasteful.
Yeah, definitely. Now, how many games have you worked on so far?
So it's pretty much, I mean, this is Primal Carnage, Extinction, and Under Circle 5. And I'm the founder of that company, but I was also one of the co-founders of the original game.
Okay.
But it's really just the two. I mean, when I started the first company, Lukewarm Media, like the first game we thought about was going to be a post-apocalyptic fantasy saga called Lightspire, which was way too big of a project to try to do. But really,
Mm.
just these two games, dinosaurs. Yeah,
Yes, dinosaurs.
dinosaurs.
Dinos. How did the inspiration for the game's concept come about? Do you just love dinosaurs and you wanted to make an awesome dinosaur game, or did you start out with something and then switch it like towards the beginning, have one concept of who was going to be fighting and then be like, you know what, dinosaurs would be awesome in this?
So, like, when Lukewarm Media, when it was part of that team, and we started the first game, it really was pretty much just dinosaurs. It was my co-founder's idea, but I mean, pretty simple, right? There weren't all that many games with dinosaurs. There were no games really with playable dinosaurs that we could, sort of find that were good. But when we started this project, Extinction, I mean, we were basically trying to rebuild from scratch the brand, but I think with a much more ambitious scope of like, I would call it a sandbox dinosaur game where we could do anything with this brand, as opposed to where the last game was left, where we basically couldn't do almost anything at all. Like, just it had to do with how where the code got to was very constrained.
Mm.
Whereas like where the foundation of this game's at now, there are so many things that are coming and that we can do. We've tested. It's going to be awesome.
So what inspires you outside of gaming then? Do you like go to a museum and see some sort of like cultural display, or the stuffed animals or artwork or just nature itself, if you go on a walk, what people watching do you, or reading a book and then like, oh, that's a great idea type thing.
As far as like for what inspires stuff in the game, I'm personally drawn to just I'm always trying to think of like new level themes or item types, and I love the brands like retro brands like GI Joe, He-Man, that took their brands everywhere. Like if you watch some of those old shows, you'll see like He-Man in space or the GI Joe. Like there's nothing that those brands didn't do. And
Oh
so you
no,
can
they didn't. I grew up watching them, so we're the same age.
we are simpatico, right?
Yeah, so He-Man, She-Ra, all those, all
Even
the figures.
even like any long running brand like X-Men, right? If you trace anything in sci-fi, you like far enough, you will get back to fantasy. And if you trace anything in fantasy, you'll get into sci-fi. You'll get
Yep.
what I'm saying? Where like fantasy characters are traveling through time and end up on the moon. Like that'll happen.
Or Mars, Jupiter.
Yeah, exactly. And as far as like, and another thing is I love at events like our game's really fun for families. You'll see like middle-aged gamers. You'll see like 6-year-olds playing with their parents, and I love the fact that, and that is inspiring, that like it's a game for everybody, and we try to make decisions with what we do to sort of keep it that way. Not add anything that's gonna make it too gritty and make it something a parent's not gonna want to have their 5-year-old playing.
Well, it's family gaming is cool. You got to break them in young.
Exactly.
Got to do it young. Be like,
Right.
no,
And-
you're not going outside, kid. Sit down and play this video game and shut up.
And it's not a kid's game either. It's like a serious game, but you can have your kid play it.
Yeah. I mean, it's, again, some people may not take it seriously, but there is, with all the different class options on both sides, there really is that strategy to it. And if you really want to be good, you need it.
Yeah,
Go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say that like some of the features that are coming like in the next patch and that are gonna be added to with every patch is like, for instance, on the human side, those weapon slots were designed to be swappable loadout. So with
Right.
each patch, we're gonna be adding like 3, 4, 5 new weapons. So in 3 or 4 months, you might have different weapons for each slot that are each have different stat variances, and that's where you're really gonna find that strategy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And there's another dinosaur coming out in the patch.
There is
Yes.
the Acrocanthosaurus.
Yay!
The Acro.
So, how would you say the game is being received so far?
Is pretty good. Like we went out in early access in December. We launched in April. And it's people are like, it's fair. It looks great. It's got potential, but I'm gonna keep watching to see if it really gets there. And that's really the best that we could have expected with where the game was at in April. We think that like with what we're about to put out and the patches afterwards, people are going to be really blown away. And like that, we've asked for a lot of faith, I guess you could say, from our community. Like, trust us, this is the right direction. I think that they're gonna feel good about that.
I mean, it's awesome as is, and I remember you saying earlier that some of the people that are working on it are fans of the series. So, obviously, they have investment in the series and they want to make it good. So, asking for a little faith in that respect isn't a horrible thing.
Yeah, we've had I can think of at least we've had 2 animators that have come aboard that started in the fans and in the forums. We have people that are helping turn out some of the new DLC, and a lot of people that started sort of as an internship and we've gone on to hire. And so yeah, like you said, when people start investing 10, 20 hours a week to help this game out, in many cases for free, that tells us that we're, as a brand, also as like a development team, we're doing the right things.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, how long has the game been being worked on?
So Extinction's probably been worked on for about 2.5 years, since like early 2013.
Okay.
The first game also took about 3 years to make. So a lot of the best development has happened in the last year. We've really sort of found that groove and gotten the game into a place where it just became so much easier to solve, you know, to find where the bugs were, to fix balance, to like, here's an example of something that like just happened in the last 2 days, right? Our lead programmer or our game designer figured out how to get in-game pickups, right? So now like you can drop a weapon or a key card or something that now can be used. So maybe, and it's already implemented in terms of like that new build where you can grab a key card and there'll be doors that, you know, unless you have it, they stay locked. But if you find it, you can unlock it.
Right.
All of that is like nothing. You don't see anything like that in the game right now. And those things are maybe taking days to figure out, which is just crazy cool.
Yeah, that's pretty good to only take days.
Yeah, to at least days to figure out or prototype a new feature, and then just over the weeks and months that follow, figuring out how to take something that we've solved. I mean, like the AI, like one of the big features in this next patch is AI. So co-op modes, single player, right? That's coming. Like that's like next week.
Nice.
But after we do it, we get it in there for the first time, we're going to see how we can sort of weave that into other game modes, how to maybe drop, you know, AI dinosaurs into the free roam maps. And so, you know, there's a lot of cool things that could happen.
That's awesome. How many people are involved in the making of Primal Carnage Extinction?
So there's about 10 people, I would say, that are like full-time staff. And then we've got probably about just as many that give us either part-time support or come in as needed, like our composer. And then on top of that, we've probably got another 5 or 6 people that are working with some outside studios that also help us. So it's a really big indie project because we're absolutely an indie team. Like we don't have a studio. This is all being done remotely with people across the world.
Nice.
You know, there's literally development happening at every hour of the day usually. So I think that's another inspiring thing that I just as an indie team, it's not a 3-person project. It's something that really takes coordination and teamwork, you know?
Definitely.
That's right. Mazrulin pointed out about 40 or so QA testers. I mean, the number of people that have probably contributed to this game it's probably about 100 in some way, shape, or form.
Wow. That's substantial. That's awesome, though. That really is awesome.
Thank you.
So here's always some fun questions. Do you have any examples on what's gone right so far during development?
Yeah, I would say like, you know, like I said, getting the game to a place where, you know, we can do anything with it. That's a big success. Graphically, you know, like most of the work for most of the levels you see was done by one person, right?
Wow.
One person who never had any experience in the Unreal 3 engine prior to this. He basically was a modder primarily with Source, and he picked up all this stuff and just figured out how to make the game look amazing.
That's crazy. So
like I point to my 2 leads, my 2 generals, the guy that I just mentioned, APOC, a lot of people know him as. The other guy, I don't know his Steam name, Logan. You know, he also had never done anything in games. He had done some really interesting web dev for a few high profile clients, but we just kind of stumbled on top of him, and he picked up game design, and he's basically now leading that side of the operation.
Nice.
So there's that. I think the marketplace, the in-game economy and all that, that's a huge success that I got to credit. Well, mostly a success that I got to credit Pub Games. That's our partner in crime based out of Australia. Like, I think I just looked into it and I saw that there's almost been more money that people have spent like trading than that actually gotten to us, and that's like $70,000 or $80,000 in money that people have spent on each other's stuff. You know,
that's awesome.
That's like players saying, you know, we value this, and you know, that's pretty. It's
cool. Worth it. Yeah, that's crazy. That's awesome though. It's good that the economy is going good. It's so bad when it just goes to crap, and you start getting all sorts of crazy things going on. It's just, you know, sometimes it's done good, sometimes it's not done good.
That's like on the other side, like one of the things that went wrong also in the space of the economy was like in the first few weeks when we were in early access, there was an exploit that players figured out that led to like tens of thousands of certain types of items being quickly generated, which really devalues what those exist at, what those sit at, and it affects like if a full human skin is now suddenly worth 2 cents and we want to create a new skin, it's harder to do that because people that are new players can just buy the other one for 2 cents.
Right.
But that happened in the first two. It's a good thing to like experience in the first, like during early access, as opposed to now where it could like break the whole economy.
Yeah.
Got to give a quick shout out to PC Jurassic, who is like, he is probably the most active or one of the most active fans, and has like always been one of the people that's given me feedback and helped cue me in if like somebody was stealing our assets and using them. So he's on the stream.
Nice. Hello, PC, and I see Mass Rallium as in there too. Now, anything else that's gone wrong during the development?
Yes.
Honestly, it's like, well, let me get the list. Hold on, just pull out this giant scroll.
There's probably been just as many things that have gone wrong that have gone right. It's oh yeah, the list. Like, I mean, I think that when we started, we actually one of the biggest things was that like we thought initially that the recode, we were calling this the recode before it was a whole new game, like a patch, and we thought that it would take like 2 to 3 months to recode most of the thing from the ground up. That was not accurate.
Not accurate.
We made some choices when it came to like how we re-implemented all of the old features for dinosaurs and animations that veered from kind of how they were in the original game. And in many cases, we've realized like why like that, was a problem, and we're sort of working backwards to get some things to look more the way they do in the first game for good reasons, not just to satisfy like people that are like, we want the old game back, but because it's better.
Gotcha.
I think the sniper rifle, like, we put some time in developing the 3D scope, which is an option that like if you keep it on, you can see what's going on. Even when you're running, you can see a reflection in the scope. It didn't really add a lot of value, you know what I mean? And it's not helpful, so why did we do it?
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, it sounds cool though.
It looked really, like when we saw it and heard about it and thought about it and started doing it, it looked really awesome. As a sniper player, at a certain point I was like, what you really want as a sniper is to just be able to really quickly get into that scope and fire quickly. You don't need to mess around with all the other stuff. So it looked cool, but it like wasn't great for the players that would use it the most,
Yeah, the practicality of it in the situation was kind of like, yeah.
Exactly.
I guess you could say, yeah. It's cool though. Sounds awesome, but yeah, I can't. And I like sniping, so you're right. When you're especially doing like sniper work, you want to just pop into that, get your shot off. Line up quick, get your shot off, and get moving. Because let's face it, sniper guns aren't the fastest guns. It's not like an SMG.
Right. Exactly. You've got to be agile. You've got to have. We're trying to get more feedback in there. That you'll see that in the next patch. That like. You have to know if you're hitting your target, and it's really important when you're using a single shot type of weapon.
Yeah.
I would say another like sort of what went right, what went wrong sort of thing is like when we look at the game mode that we're about to put out, right? The survival. So that's it's a wave based AI game mode with upgrades in between each wave.
Nice.
Similar to like Killing Floor in a lot of ways.
Okay.
We look at what we're about to push out, and it looks beautiful, right? And we can do a lot of cool things because it's smaller maps that don't require like dinosaur versus human balance because you're only playing as the humans. And we might look at stuff like this later where you just play as the dinosaurs. We look at this game mode and we go, wow, people are going to like this more than they like the game as it is. Maybe we shouldn't have worried about. Maybe we should have started here because it's actually easier to balance PvE than it is to balance PvP.
Oh yeah, well that's a given. PvP is always going to be a little hard to balance because you're going to have some things that are just stronger than other things. It's the way it is. And it depends on how it's used too.
Yep, and every time you add, a new weapon or new dinosaur, you got to change it a little bit. And developing an asymmetric game, like, like with dinosaurs, right? You have to. It's not just about the mechanics. It's about the levels. It's about movement. It's about placing things in a way that blocks Rexes at times, or
Yeah.
creating sniper locations for a Dilo. That it's a lot of work. But anyway, that's what I was gonna say.
Now, let me see here. You said you've worked on the other Primal Carnage, so where do you think the game industry will be in the next 5 to 10 years?
There's a lot of really cool stuff that's happening. I think indie development is rapidly shaping the industry, right? Like they're, between the software tools that now make it easier to like create really awesome stuff like UE4. We really would love to get to UE4 at some point soon because it just makes development so much easier.
Right.
So, but it's not just that. It's all it's Unity. It's middleware. There and this is leading to like there are teams forming, new dev teams forming every day. There are new indie games launching every day. The consoles are giving more support to the indies, and all of this just leads to more ideas happening out there. It also makes, I think, the AAA industry a little bit more accountable, sort of reflect on, our 20, 30, $50 million budgets the right way to develop games, to develop a game, or, can you do it on less? Can you maybe take some of that money? I think that AAA soon could be a leader in funding indie studios. Imagine if like Riot had, brought in one or two studios to develop something that benefit from their sort of competitive esport experience.
Right.
As opposed to just sort of dominating a single franchise, I think that you're going to see a widening of everything. And I think that you see that in a lot of places, right? Esports in general, and that's like an area of particular interest for us as a company. We're trying to steer our game towards being a more competitive title with stat tracking and things like that. I think that when you look at the esports industry, for the last 5 to 10 years, it's been focused on these single franchise titles, right? Like League or within fighting games, certain games that if you're a new player coming into the scene, you're maybe put off a little bit by like you just might never get to be as good as someone that's been in there for like, for 5 or 10 years. But you're seeing like new platforms come in that are trying to get more games, indie games, all games, to have competitive features, so that the esports world looks like many more games that like players compete on and do so at tournaments than just like the 5 or 6 that are the most popular.
Yeah, I mean the esports, it's grown exponentially since it started. I mean, it used to be what, StarCraft? It
started with, it wasn't the first one, but that was one of the first ones, I think.
Well, yeah, that was the first. That was the first one I started watching, and when I was younger. And it's like, I mean, it's still going strong, but there's been a lot more. COD is huge, and it's like there is a lot of room for expansion in there with other things, not just League of Legends, the tower defenses, stuff like that. You can do other types of games in that.
Yeah, you can honestly. I mean,
Unreal Tournament.
Right, like the platforms are getting into this. Like by platforms, I mean like MLG, Evolve, Xfire. There's a whole bunch of companies in this space, but you can make any game competitive, and that's kind of the direction a lot of games are going anyway. But to really to like develop a culture around it, it takes putting that spotlight on it. And I think there's going to be more of that. But there's even like think TF2, right? Like, it's kind of crazy that TF2 is a popular game, but it hasn't been in the esport, spotlight. And you're going to see that happen in the next year, I think.